Complete Quarterback. I'm your host, John Serenitas. And this week, I have the good fortune to be joined by New Hampton head football coach, Ed Kiley. Coach Kiley, how are you?
Great, John. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, man. I've known you for a long time, so I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to talking some New Hampton football with you. Before we do that, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Complete Quarterback. Visit CompleteQB.com today for all your quarterback needs. Chris Johnson has been coaching quarterbacks for over 25 years. He is one of the best quarterback coaches in the country. I would know. I've worked his camps. I've known him for that period of time. He is the real deal. If you're looking to help your son or daughter who wants to play quarterback, or you're looking to make a switch and coach quarterbacks, you are not going to find a better resource than CompleteQB.com. Visit CompleteQB.com today. There's some great resources on there, including Chris's brand new quarterback course that they have published in the past week. It is fantastic. Chock full of drills, techniques, you name it, it's in there. So if you're looking to coach quarterbacks and get better and teach sound, fundamental quarterback technique, then you need to visit CompleteQuarterback.com today. Again, that's CompleteQB, I should say, .com today. All right, Ed, as I mentioned, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. The pride of Natick, Massachusetts. Coach Kiley, like I said, I've known you for a long time. We've worked Bay State camp together. Of course, the Bay State family, as I like to call it, is strong. I mean, we've got a lot of ties. I played at Norwood. You played at Natick. Of course, Brian Lee and those Walpole guys, we know them too. But a lot of strong ties there. You know, when I think of our time coaching at Bay State, Ed, it's amazing, though, that that bond of playing in that league in the 80s and 90s is still so strong. And I think a big reason for that is that there's a lot of respect between those programs and the guys that played in those programs.
Most definitely. I see, like, when you go back to those camps, like the friendship we have, just rivals with Natick and Walpole after all those years, and playing with Todd Collins in the Shriners game, and Coach Lee, we're tighter than we ever were. And I had the chance of recruiting a lot of Walpole guys and KP guys as postgraduates. So yeah, the ties are phenomenal. And back in the day, those camps were really competitive physically, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
There was some,
and it wasn't just the players that got into it; the coaches got into it too.
And it was great. But the philosophy, what I like about that camp, the philosophy hasn't changed much. You work with other guys' teams, rival teams. I remember working with Tresselli back in the day, and my dad would take the Walpole O-line coach, and the O-line guys, and it would be a battle. But it was very well respected. And that carried over into the season, which carried over, 20, 30 years down the road.
Yeah, no, it truly is a great camp. And to your point, I think that respect, that healthy respect, those friendships, they're born in that camp. Yeah, you would play, like I said, I played at Norwood. We'd play Walpole. They were our rival, but then you guys were a rival to us too. You'd go back and forth. And a lot of that, though, started in that camp because, like, even for me, when I took over at Norwood in 2010, the first thing I did is I called Coach Lee and I said, we're coming, because if I'm going to try to get this thing going in the right direction, iron sharpens iron. We need to get better right out of the gate. We need to go up against good teams in a good camp that are going to get us ready to play. And Natick is there and Walpole is there. And, of course, they're rivals with us, so we get a look at them. They get a look at us. But the relationships built at that camp truly do last a lifetime. I mean, we're seeing it here. We're talking, and I know your relationship is strong with Coach Lee and all of us at King Philip. So, like I said, it's great to have you on. So talk a little bit about your coaching career and how you ended up at New Hampton. You've been at New Hampton for a while now. Your dad, of course, as you mentioned, was a coach. When did you decide you wanted to follow in his footsteps and start coaching football?
I really believe it was, growing up in both my parents were coaches, my mom being a baton twirling coach, my dad being a football coach, a longtime assistant, D coordinator to Coach Lamb at Natick. So just growing up, starting out, to be honest with you, as a water boy, moving up to a ball boy, and then obviously, playing the junior high or the junior Redmond, the Pop Warner at the time. Things have changed there now a lot, but And then starting there and being captain at Natick High School, having a great high school career, and then going on to Springfield College, where I had a great career as offensive center, on snapping, and then staying on at Springfield as a TA with the offensive line. From there, I made my that's crazy because at that time there was about we had about 8 TAs. Back then, mid '90s, the $5,000 job was a big job at the time, believe it or not. And obviously that's not including living. That's just talent. Hoping you can talk up with somebody, another coach, who split the cost for for living purposes and food, etc. But I had a great career at Springfield and I learned a lot. And from what my dad and Coach Lamb taught me along the way. And from there, I put out applications because I wanted to make some money, believe it or not. And I got hired at Plymouth Regional High School as a social studies teacher and offensive line coach, defensive line coach. Was there for 4 years, won 3 state championships there. And then from there, I went to Plymouth State. At the time, it was Plymouth State College, now Plymouth State University, where 4 years there, which we had our struggles there. We went over a few times and won the Freedom Football Conference a few times. And then from there, the big step up was going to New Hampton School. In 2004, it was like working with athletes that I never worked with before. We were pushing buttons. We happened to be #1 team in the country. So that was offensive line coach, defensive line coach. And through the years there, I was offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, obviously head coach now. And I've been there ever since. And I just kept the tradition of New Hampton football going. I'm just trying to make a great program better every year.
Yeah, and you certainly have done that. I mean, your track record of success at New Haven is impressive. Like you mentioned, you've been there 20 years now. Coaching private school football is a different deal, though, right? It's not, I think when we think about private school football, so much of that environment has changed now, and the landscape has changed so much now. If you go back 20, 25, 30 years, NEPSAC football was nothing like it is today, right? I mean, let's be honest. It's changed a lot now, and enrollments are up, and more kids want to play private school sports. They want to play in the NEPSAC, whether it be the ISL, the Evergreen, the Founders League, whatever it might be. But it was a different world when you first got there. It wasn't what it is today, where it's high stakes recruiting and it's as competitive as it is.
Yeah, growing up in a public school where obviously the Bay State League was one of the premier leagues, probably not only in Massachusetts but New England, right? And so by doing that you didn't really, we kind of had like blinders on. I didn't even realize how good maybe some of these ISL teams were because they weren't known. They were unknown. That was the unknown. Now jump ahead 20, 30 years. Now they're powerhouses. So it's one extreme to the other extreme, which I think is good for football. I'm a public school guy. I'm from Natick, and but now being in the coached in public school and the college level, and obviously now in the independent school, it's changed a lot. And recruiting just in the last 5 years, and I strongly believe, I think we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago at Gillette. Everything's a trickle down effect, right? With obviously the portal and the money that's going on, and all the way down from Division I all the way to Division III. It's really interesting, crazy interesting, actually.
No, it really is, and when we talk about the changing landscape of NEPSAC football and how things have changed, you mentioned being a public school guy, and I think one of the hardest parts of being a coach now at a private school is you do have to recruit. John Pappas said this to me 3 years ago. He said, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we don't have to recruit. Recruiting is a part of my job. In order for us to have success, in order for me to keep my job, we need to recruit. Is there a fine line for you now? I know you guys are in a little bit of a different boat with the post grads, but is there a fine line for you in terms of managing those public school relationships, but knowing that you also need to recruit kids in order for the program to stay alive, function, and have success?
Yeah, it definitely is a fine line, and I think at New Hampton, my job, just like Coach Paps told you, is my job is basically an extension of the admissions office. We got to bring guys in. All right. Yes, in our league, we're only allowed 3 postgraduates, so it is competitive, and or I should say, year to year, it depends on what we need, wants and needs. And lately, it's been obviously linemen that we like every other program in the country. But yeah, we
Yep.
still got to with the camps and social media today. I think it is easier to recruit that underclassmen at camps because they're also looking for a better opportunity too. And there's nothing against the public school coaches because they're great. I will never step on. I work with Brian Lee very well. I'll never step on any of the college. I mean, the public school, high school. Their feet. I'll never do that. I'll try to work with them. And our thing is, if they reach out to me or see me at a camp, it's fair game. I'm not going to reach out and steal somebody, a sophomore out of their school. That's just not me personally. But if they interact with me first or they come up to me at a camp, that's fair game in my eyes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said earlier, that's that fine line, right? I mean, some coaches will tell you, look, I coach in the NEPSAC. Recruiting is my lifeline. It's our lifeblood. We got to do it. End of story. I'm sorry that it's going to upset public school coaches. And I hear about this all the time, Ed, from public school coaches that they think it's unfair. And I understand where they're coming from. I've been a public school head coach. I get it. I do think at the end of the day, though, and I think you bring up an interesting point, it does come down to the kid. And if you're at a camp and a kid walks up to you and expresses interest in your school, well, you have to do what's right by your school and have that conversation with that student athlete and see what they want and see if your school is a fit. I mean, again, like you said, you're a part of the admissions process in New Hampton. That's part of your job.
Yes, and I think the relationships I have with the Brian Lees of the world and the Mark Mortarellis of the world, those just name a few. We go way back, but if you're open and you communicate, it makes it a little bit easier. I'm always up front. When someone calls, I'm going to let them know because I don't want them to hear second fiddle. I want them to hear it from me. Listen, and it's a respect thing. I have a lot of respect for those public school coaches because that's where I came from, and I owe it to them. But in the same token, that's why I want to be up front. It's still our job to bring in those guys to help the schools run.
Obviously, you have had a lot of success at New Hampton, being up in New Hampshire. St. Paul's is up there. Tilton was up there until recently, I should say, until they dropped football. But it depends on your view of things, right? Like, do you think that being in New Hampshire versus being in Massachusetts is any kind of a disadvantage for you, or it doesn't matter? Kids are going to go somewhere where they think that they can get the best opportunity for themselves.
I think that's a great question, John. And I think it's people say we have a disadvantage up here, but I don't believe so. With social media, and we're on the map. We're well known for our success well before me and well after me. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. Whoever takes over in the future, I want them to make it better than it already is. But we recruit nationally. We're all over the place. I mean, we have kids out of Texas, California, Louisiana. I mean, the list goes on, and also internationally. So we're in the big market. We're just not. It's just not domestic here.
It amazes me. It amazes me talking to Jeff Moore down at Tabor, and he's put on a master's class in getting international kids to go there. Now you're seeing more and more of them go to NEPSAC schools. It's crazy. But to your point, I mean, you have to do that as well now. You have to dip into that international market. If a kid's willing to move to New England and go to school here and board here, you obviously have to entertain that.
Yes, and the guy that actually brought me to New Hampton School, Chris Adamson, he owns Gridiron Imports, and I actually had the opportunity to been to Germany before COVID for 3 summers, and that's a great opportunity. He does a great job promoting international kids for prep school as well as colleges. So that's really helped us. And the nice thing that I like and our staff likes about the international kids is the challenge of coaching them, because some of them have never played football before, and some of them have. And that's a great challenge to bring them along because They know the game. They want to learn the game, and they're going to get better. And that's our job is to teach them the game of football and have some fun along the way. And believe it or not, you can see a lot of success not only in Division III, Division II, major college, but in the NFL of international players now.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And it's interesting because I was telling a friend of mine this story this morning. Back when I coached at Franklin High School in the early 2000s, the late, great Steve Sidwell and I would sit in the coach's office at Franklin High and with that Midwestern, that Colorado drawl, and of course, if you don't know who Steve Sidwell was, it's Brad Sidwell's dad. Big Sid was the defensive coordinator of the Saints, the Patriots, the Seahawks. He had been around. He was a tremendous resource for me as a younger coach. But one day we're sitting there, and he literally said what you just said, talking about, you know what? Why aren't we going to Germany and trying to get some of those people here? And he had gone to Germany on vacation, and he says to me, he's like, big fella, we got to get some of those German boys over here. We need linemen. And the answer to our problems is some of these German boys. We got to get them over here. And at the time, I thought to myself, it's 2003. I'm thinking, what is he talking about? What do you mean get these German boys here? Where are they going to live? Are they going to have a host family? Is somebody going to have to sponsor them? Like, what are you talking about? But now, when you look at NEPSAC programs, and they are recruiting internationally, and you have more young men coming from Europe and other parts of the world. I mean, obviously, we know a lot of them come from Samoa and the Pacific Islands that go to the western part of the country. But now all of a sudden, you're seeing kids like Botan Varga down at Tabor. He's from Hungary. Like, all of a sudden, you're seeing these kids come over, and you're seeing more and more of it because they recognize, hey, this is a great opportunity.
Yes, and not only at New Hampton specifically, our international program does a great job. And really, so there are kids, like we had 2 Germans last year on the team that I didn't even know they were even going to come out on the first day. They were here for International Week, and they came out, and they helped us on special teams. So it's just not only the football piece, it's the school bringing them in and providing them an opportunity on top of the recruited international kids.
Yeah. You are watching the Coaches Set presented by Complete Quarterback. I'm your host, John Serenitas, and this week I'm joined by New Hampton head football coach Ed Kiley. Just a reminder, visit CompleteQB.com today for all your quarterback needs. Chris Johnson is one of the best quarterback resources in all of football. I promise you, if you visit CompleteQB.com today, you will be a better quarterbacks coach. You will have a better understanding of the most important position in sports. Visit CompleteQB.com today for more information and all your quarterback needs. Coach Kiley, what is at the core of your philosophy? If I'd asked you to tell me what is your philosophy as a head football coach, what would you tell me?
So at New Hampton specifically, and I really got this, I stole this from BC way back when I used to do the BC overnight camps. And it really stuck at New Hampton, and it goes along with our core values at New Hampton School. And that is, we expect our guys to be, first of all, we want to win championships. And I know every school wants to win championships. Some guys want to just be competitive, but the bottom line is you want to win. But it's how you get there, right? It's the route that you take. So that's what we stress. And what we stress is we want our guys to be champions in the community. And New Hampton School, our community is really tight, really, from the top down, all walks of life. We all work together as one, which is really unique in a prep school campus. We have a beautiful campus, and everybody comes together, helps everybody out. So the community was really a good piece, a big piece at New Hampton School. But within that, our football team's even tighter. So that goes a long way. So we expect our guys to be the best possible person they are. So that means whether they're on campus, whether they're home during break or spring break or summer break, or they're at a college visit, how you characterize how you're going to carry yourself. So that's the first and foremost. Second is we want our guys to be champions in the classroom, because after all, that's what you're here for. Yeah. New Hampton is really competitive academically speaking. We range from your average college prep all the way through your honors and your APs, and we have the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program, that we have quite a few of our guys, and it is really challenging. So we want our guys to be the best possible students they can be. And then last, we want our guys to be champions on the field. And again, I try to, and we're a school of about 340 co-ed. and we range between your mid 30s and low 40s, and guys out. So that's a good percentage of the population. So again, there's a good opportunity. And again, a lot of those kids are recruited, but some of those kids are just walking on, that never played before. Our team's made up of guys that never played football before, all the way through scholarship kids. So it's really good challenge for us and the coaching staff, which I have a great coaching staff. So if you were to take that and you mix the community piece and the academics and the football field, you mix them in a melting pot, that's what's given us our success over the years.
I ask every coach I have on the show this same question every single week, and that is, have kids changed? I believe they have. I have not been shy about that, and I think a big reason why they've changed, times have changed. But do you believe kids have changed, or do you think kids are similar to what they were, let's say, 20 years ago when you took over at New Hampton?
No, I strongly believe the kids have changed, because society has changed. And I think a lot of that, right, wrong, or indifferent, is because of technology and how people are brought up in our technological age. So I really believe that kids have changed. I still keep my core values, but you still got to adapt with the times. I'm a strong believer in that.
Yeah, exactly. I am too. I mean, you can't coach the way we were coached. I used to say that when I was a head coach in the early 2010s. You can't coach kids like you were coached. And as a coach, you've got to develop your own style. You've got to develop your own way of communicating with kids and dealing with them and coaching them. And it can't be a reflection of how you were coached because, like you just said, have changed. It's way more outlets now. They have way more things that draw their attention. It's not like it was when you and I were younger and you played your sports, and when you weren't playing your team sports, you were out playing catch on the local field or playing basketball on the local court or running around with your friends, looking to find people to play sports. Times have changed. Kids are not the same anymore as they used to be in that regard. When it comes to schematical philosophy, and I ask this not to get into the weeds here about X's and O's, but what is your philosophy on offense, defense, special teams? If I watch New Hampton play for the first time, what should I be taking away from that as a football fan? What would I walk away from that experience thinking about the New Hampton football program?
Sure. Well, hopefully we have on offense, we have an exciting brand of offense. We try to go as fast as we possibly can, no huddle. We mix it up between we do a lot of reading, a lot of counter read, a lot of RPOs, a lot of play action. So we want to really move on the offensive side of the ball, put the ball in our best athletes' hands, which we don't know where that's going to end up, especially when the read game's going on. But also too, we don't mind getting under center and getting in the old eye and running power counter and toss out of that. So that's our philosophy offensively. Defensively, we're in more of an odd front, and we like to fly to the football. And by saying an odd front, it doesn't mean we always have three down. We'll roll up a linebacker for an even front look, depending on what coverages we want to get in. But we emphasize we want to fly to the football and tackle properly. And that's the big thing is obviously today in this day and age is, going live in practice. It's really tough to do. But I think we do a pretty good job. Coach Gilson does. He's our defensive coordinator, really repping and doing a lot of tackling circuits and drills as best we can, because with short numbers, you really can't go live a lot, right. And that's the biggest thing. And we've been really successful, knock on wood, over the years of staying healthy. And when we're 500, that's when we get a little banged up and we're not in that bowl mix. And thank God for my history. I've been on the other side of that. So that's good for me, but I've also been in the 500 range last few years, and that's because of injury based. And then on special teams, and I know a lot of guys just do special teams to do special teams, but we do spend some time on special teams. We try to keep it simple so we don't make mistakes. And our goal in special teams is to bring those kids along that maybe aren't getting the reps on the first team, but second or third team, all right, to get them out there backing up a special team, or if someone goes down, they're ready to go. So it's to bring that we use special teams to bring those guys along. All right, and that's kind of the nature of our system at New Hampton School. That's a philosophy we use in our coaching staff to give a lot of, and we do have some pretty good athletes that, maybe not, they don't get the opportunity to start right away. But special teams, that's the way to get your, as I say to the college guys, get on the bus. You get on the bus, that means you're 1-2 deep or you're on the special teams.
A couple more questions here for you before we go. Let's look ahead to the 2025 season. Just some early thoughts on the upcoming season for New Hampton. Who are some guys that, if we don't know, who are some names that we should get to know here as we look ahead to the fall?
Sure. Yeah. We have first off, we have a good core coming back. In prep school, it's a new wave of kids all the time. That's the difference between a big difference between public school, and private school is we got some, obviously there's new pieces to the puzzle every year. So the challenge is, how long is it going to take us to come together as a team? There's some teams that come together in 3 weeks. There's some teams that take 6 weeks to come together. And it's not right or wrong. It's just some teams are quicker at it and they gel more. I mean, don't forget, we're not only all across the United States, we're internationally speaking. So that's a big point first and foremost. But the core coming back, led by Kyle Romanek, who is our H. He's a really hard-nosed runner, and he's our Mike linebacker. Talon Perkins has done a great job, DB, and we're hoping to use him a little bit more in the wide receiver. Charlie Keiko from New York is returning quarterback, and he's a pretty good athlete, and we expect big things out of him this year. And then we got line. We have 2 good starters coming back, actually 3, and we're looking. We're filling them with a few PGs, new guys coming in the pipeline right now as we speak. I'm really pleased on what we have coming in, and that is still in the pipeline. Seamus McIntyre, he's a kicker, and he's probably the best kicker I've coached. He's ranked number 15th in the country. And it's nice when you can kick 50, you can kick a field goal from your logo, you're doing pretty well. And as a defensive coordinator, like he says, when we can kick it in the end zone instead of the 25, instead of the 40, that's a big difference. So I'm looking forward. I think recruiting wise, we've done an outstanding job. And what's unique, another unique thing, John, is, and in prep school, unlike college a little bit, is recruiting never stops. We'll take a kid right up to the last minute. If we have beds available, so, and it's great. I love it. New Hampton's treated me very well over the years, met some great people, and great NEPSAC coaches, great public school coaches we have a lot of respect for. So I'm looking forward to 2025 coming up here.
All right, Coach, final question here for you tonight. Just some thoughts on the rest of the offseason, any camp information we might need, any information that you might want to pass along to folks out there about New Hampton.
Sure. If you're, and I'm talking to everybody, if you're interested in a PG year or an independent school, to reach out to me and the admissions office. Camp wise, we are not running a camp, but and the one reason why, because our kids are all over the world. Let's try to get them back. We do a couple of weekends for guys that are on the team. But I think we do a pretty good job placing guys in camps because, as you know, regardless of how many coaches come through our office, which there's a lot of them, they still want to see you live at the camp. And that's what we stress at New Hampton School. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to me being at camps. I do a couple. I always see the Bay State camp. I do a camp in Maine, in Western Mass. So I'll be out and about at the Bone Camp and be visible, looking for future Huskies.
Awesome. Well, Coach Kiley, I want to say thank you for taking the time, my friend. I greatly appreciate it. I know I speak for a lot of people that respect you both as a man and as a coach. And I've always, for me, it always starts with the person. You're a terrific human being. Obviously, your resume speaks for itself as a coach. And I know that if I had a son that wanted to play football in the NEPSAC or private school football, I'd want my son to play for you. So thank you for taking the time, my friend. It's great to see you.
Hey, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. Your show is outstanding. I always tune in. You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, Coach. Means a lot to me coming from you, my friend. Greatly appreciate it. And of course, as always, if there's ever anything we can do, just let us know.
Thank you.
All right. That is Ed Kiley, head football coach at New Hampton. That'll do it for this episode of the Coaches Chat. For Coach Kiley, I'm John Serenitas. Till next week. Peace.